So thanks for attending, everybody. Today we're excited. We've done a lot of these webinars, and I think this is maybe the first time where it's legitimately technical difficulties have messed with us. So thanks for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. And thanks to Michael for bearing in and making extra attempts to get in. So I want to, first of all, people ask a lot of questions about these webinars, who we are, why we do these webinars, that sort of thing. So I want to take a moment and go over that information real quick and then make a couple of announcements. And then I'll run through Michael's slides as he presents. First things first, we are Log My Calls. We're a call tracking and call analytics solution for marketers. We're used by marketers that care about driving phone calls. So these are businesses that maybe have a national presence, but they're a national brand rather, but have a local presence, so they generate a lot of phone calls. Call centers use us. Local businesses use us. Agencies that market for small businesses as well as enterprises use us. And the tool essentially does three different things. The first thing it does is it tells marketers which ads, campaigns, and keywords generate phone calls. The second thing it does is record calls. The third thing it does is actually analyze the conversations, the actual text of the call itself, for cues, indicators, if you will, about what happened on the phone call. So we're talking about things like whether or not there was a good lead on the call, or whether or not there was a closed sale or a conversion of some sort. And then the other question people ask is, why on earth do you do these webinars? And that's a really, really good question. So if our audience is marketers, if that's who we sell to, we thought one of the best ways to share marketing content or to get in front of these people would be to share useful marketing content. So that's what these webinars are about. And you can see on your screen, there it is, that we have done a lot of these webinars. So if you go to logmycalls.com/webinar, you're going to see today's webinar. Next week's, we have Brian Massey, the conversion scientist. Do you know him, Michael? Do you know Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he'll be talking about the chemistry of successful landing pages, and then you can watch past webinars, that are recorded, that you can just go in and watch without filling out a form. And so we encourage you to do that. That leads me into the next announcement, which is today's webinar is being recorded. So you'll get an email from us tomorrow morning, bright and early, that has that recording attached to it. We encourage you to share that within your organization as well as on social media. Share the recording. And then finally, as you have questions throughout the webinar, and I'm sure you will as Michael presents, please type those into the little question bar on your GoToWebinar screen there. And as you ask those questions, I will read those to Michael at the conclusion of his presentation, and he can address as many as we have time for. Does that sound like a plan, Michael?
Absolutely. That sounds great.
Okay. And your presentation came, so I'm loading it right now. And then finally, the last announcement, and this is important. During the webinar, we like to use a hashtag just to keep the discussion going on social media. So if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag LMCWebinar, LMC for Log My Calls, LMCWebinar, to discuss what Michael's talking about. If you find something particularly useful that he says, throw that up on Twitter using that hashtag. And again, thanks for attending today. We really appreciate it. So with that, I want to thank Michael for attending, and I'll read his bio here and introduce him. Michael's done several webinars with us. He's fantastic to work with, great guy, so that goes without saying. But he really has a system for protecting a company's online reputation that buries negative things and then brings positive information to the front and center. No matter how good your company is, you're going to have a negative review or two. Somebody who didn't feel like they were treated particularly fairly, or somebody who was upset about something. No company is perfect, and so you will have negative reviews. So his reputation for results in this reputation management space has earned him loyalty of his clients, respect of his competition. He's appeared on the Today Show, ABC World News, USA Today, Bloomberg Radio, and he's going to talk about some specific strategies today, what to do when you get negative reviews, how you can sink those negative reviews to the bottom and bring the positive ones to the top. So with that, Michael, thanks for attending today. Will I pull up your deck here?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, McKay. And, it's kind of funny that you and I are having technical difficulties. I mean, we've done so many of these things and kind of shared our experiences with so many folks. and usually they go without a hitch. So
I know.
Nobody's perfect, right?
You know what's funny too is Michael's great. Sometimes the presenters we have really cut it close when I say, hey, let's be in about 15 minutes early, and they all of a sudden show up 2 minutes early. Those are the ones I get nervous about. But Michael was there 15 minutes early. We were ready to go, and then it's like, it's not working. So anyway, so here are the slides. Michael, can you see the slides? You probably can't see the slides. So you just tell me when to go, where to go, and I'll do my best to keep up with you.
Okay, fantastic. Sounds great. Thanks so much, McKay, and welcome everybody. I think today you're going to really understand that when it comes to doing business online, there are a lot of great things associated with that, but unfortunately, it also brings room for people to share some negative experiences online and do some things that we quite honestly would rather they didn't. So I'm going to share some of my tips and strategies with you. And, maybe the best place to start is just with a little background on myself. I've authored a number of books in the SEO space and online marketing space. As McKay mentioned, I have appeared on a number of shows really talking about marketing in general, but, as of late, it seems like the conversation always migrates toward online reputation, even in the sense of SEO. SEO has migrated where it's not just good enough to have one listing on a page. You really want to control all the listings on the first page of Google certainly for branded terms or for non-branded terms, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And also in terms of my business, Upward SEO, we're doing more and more of this work really across the spectrum, whether you're a small or medium-sized business fighting off negative comments or reviews to larger businesses that are spending, in many instances, 6 or 7 figures a month on advertising, direct TV, things of that nature. And then people go to the web, they Google your name or product name, and they see negative content. So we're really working across many different industries, trying to help people both at a professional level as well as for their businesses. And I think you'll see the impact of that as we talk in more detail about reputation management. All right, so let's dive in and talk about what is online reputation. Online reputation management, essentially what it means is taking your content and your message and pushing that out online to, in essence, create a favorable perception of your brand, your company. Maybe if you're a professional or a freelancer, it is creating this online persona and managing that in terms of not just what does it say today, but what will it say tomorrow, and how can we kind of protect that online persona moving forward. And in fact, studies show that 83% of all consumers use the internet to research products and services before making a purchase. And I think what's interesting about this too, and I just had a conversation with one of our professional clients, and he actually uses the web in an HR capacity for his business, meaning before someone comes in for an interview, he's Googling that person. And there's nothing illegal about that, at least not from a broad audience perspective. I quite honestly don't know what the HR implications are. But the reality is people are out there and they're using your results to learn more about you. And prospects develop an impression of your brand based on page 1 results. I get the question all the time, which is really how important is page 1? And I've read study after study, and essentially they all say in one capacity or another that 90% of people never go past page 1. And let's be honest, how many of you out there, when you're researching something, go beyond page 1? And if you do, how far are you going? So what we want to do when we think about online reputation is focus exclusively on page 1 in terms of the results that we're seeing. If we want to actually repair reputation, we go beyond page 1, and again, that's something I'll talk about in a little more detail when I get into some of the tips and strategies that you can start using. So really, page 1 results, the other thing to keep in mind is they're a combination of things. It's just not website listings like it used to be. It's video, it's images, it's PDFs, it's social media listings, so on and so forth. And all of these things can be used to create your persona, whether that's positive, negative, or neutral. All right, on the next slide, why you really have to, I would say, I use the word must. I don't even know if must is strong enough, but here's why managing your reputation is so important. And if you guys can see that comic there, it says, I can't explain it, it's just a funny feeling now being Googled. And the reality is that you are, and your business is. And, you know, it's interesting, LinkedIn sent me, I guess, you know, I'm a pretty aggressive user with LinkedIn, and they gave me early access to their new tool that shows you like all these details about, you know, who is actually viewing your profile online. And I think what's interesting about LinkedIn is it's a little microcosm of what happens in everyday life. And this is especially true not just for you as a professional, but more importantly for your business in terms of local search, so people looking for local professionals, local businesses to serve them, products and services. People are doing the research online. It's undeniable. So consider the implications of even one negative review about your business, especially if that's all people find when searching for you. And recently we did some work for a restaurant chain, and what we did during the assessment was we kind of showed them for each of their restaurants what their reputation looked like. And what was interesting is a number of the individual outlets didn't have any reviews, none. And the CEO said, well, oh, that's a good thing. And what I had to remind him of was when someone is searching for a product or service or a business like yours, if they see, let's say, 3 listings in the results, and the first 2 have reviews, positive or negative, let's assume it's positive, and then they see yours with no review, you need to think about what impression that gives. And unfortunately, having no reviews in many instances is as bad as having negative reviews. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to get positive reviews towards the end of the presentation. So companies with poor online reviews or online reputation, they report low conversion rates, increased marketing costs, lower profit margins. And quite honestly, you know, we've worked with businesses who have lost, you know, essentially millions of dollars or being close to going out of business because some negative reviews are just so harmful to their brand. All right, so on the next slide, let's talk about different types of reputation management. Now, you may or may not be aware of these, but they're all things to consider. The first is personal. You know, when you Google your name, what do you see? The second is professional. And a lot of the professional work we do, it's with high net worth individuals, it's with some athletes, you know, people who obviously want to protect their name online, because for all of us, there's definitely inherent value in what people see when searching for us online. The bigger area is really around company brand reputation management, and the first area there is remediation. That's, you know, basically cleaning up what's out there. The second is enhancement. So you might have a company that there isn't necessarily a lot of negative content out there, but there's not a lot of positive either. So just like the example I talked about earlier, you want to make sure that your brand is fully enhanced and is seen favorably by people doing research. And then the third piece is crisis management. And there's been a real change or evolution in the crisis management area, because in the past, a PR agency was hired to do crisis management, and now more and more as a rep management company, we're getting a lot of these inquiries because someone's posting something online that, again, can be damaging. Review suppression, you know, for some of our smaller clients or clients that have, you know, numerous outlets, they look locally at the reviews that are being listed. We work with them to help build up a really long list of positive reviews so that the negative reviews are either suppressed or removed sometimes, or, which is more common, you never see them because there's so many positive reviews stacked on top of it. And then finally, identity protection. We did work for someone who actually runs a hedge fund, and really he wanted to be, you know, other than the information associated with his fund, he wanted his personal information really to be non-existent online. He wanted everybody to kind of go through the fund to get specific information. And there were other, laws and rules associated with that. So these are all the different types of reputation management that, we've touched. And, like I said, I think this is something that whether you're a professional or a small business or a large business, you really need to be mindful of. Now on the next slide, let's take a look at an example. And I love this graphic. This was a client. We actually didn't win their business by way of full disclosure. But, we went in and kind of did the assessment. And this is what their page 1 results looked like. And this is taken from some time ago, so I don't know what it looks like today. But you can see what happens when you don't protect your online reputation. And again, all you have to do is, type your name, type your company name, type a product name into Google, and, variations of your name, perhaps there are alternate spellings or misspellings, and see what results you find. And, like I said, 90 to 99% of people never go past the first page. So if you're, 2/3 of the listing on the page are damaging, then you have an issue and obviously need to take action. Now, again, another question I always get is, all right, I know what my online reputation looks like today. What should it look like? And on the next slide, what I did was I just pulled an example of someone who does it right. This is Cooper University Hospital. They are active out on Google Places and Google+. They have a Google profile there on the right-hand side. That's what you guys are looking at. And if you're not familiar with Google Places, it really is the largest directory of businesses in the United States, and it is really the driver for a lot of local searches. If you haven't gone out and claimed your Google Places profile, I strongly recommend you do that. But you can see here, the listings are everything from job-related sites like Indeed, where they've posted information about available employment opportunities, to Wikipedia, which is an authoritative site, to social media. There's a Twitter listing there, and U.S. News and World Report did a listing on hospitals, and Cooper was included. So you can see kind of the mix of positive and neutral listings that they've utilized and incorporated into their online brand. All right, the next slide really talks about how your reputation is formed. A lot of people wonder today, just really, what are all the different components that feed into building your online reputation? And, this really all started because of sites like Yelp and Foursquare and Local.com and CitySearch, and, all these sites that allow you to provide online reviews. And, in addition to that, there are forums and blogs and social media sites, places to post pictures, whether that's social media or not. And all of those, what we call digital assets, are feeding into Google search results. And essentially, that's how these reputations are being formed. And as I had a bullet on an earlier slide, if you're not proactively managing your reputation, someone else is. And that may be the Google bot, which is a robot crawler that just happens to find instances of your company name and decides to rank those listings on page 1. You want to always be proactive and understand how your reputation is being formed. What's the cost of a bad reputation? I mentioned this earlier. 83% of consumers are researching products online. They may be searching for your product or service a lot. The way to figure that out and figure out what your exposure is to go to Google AdWords and use the keyword planner tool. And this used to be called something different, but now it is accessible through Google AdWords. And simply type in your search query and see how many people are searching for that on a monthly basis. And, some companies, especially the companies we work with, quite honestly, they don't care how often their brand name is being Googled. They just want to make sure that their reputation is pristine, so to speak. But one of the reasons why this is so important is because it helps you understand the potential impact of fixing it and also the detriment that it may be causing. And, ask yourself, too, as you're online and you're looking at search engine results, are you going to buy from companies that have negative online reviews or maybe negative article in the news or press about something they did either internally or externally? And, if you do a search, like I said before, and let's say you're thinking about a new restaurant to go to, if there's limited or no information out there, are you more likely to go to that restaurant or a restaurant that has a lot of positive reviews and a lot of feedback? The other thing that's popular today are videos, and YouTube is one of many techniques or tactics that we use to help improve online reputation, because YouTube videos are showing up in more Google search results, and they're compelling. People like to watch them, especially if they're only a minute or two long. These, again, are all things you need to think about in terms of valuation and valuing the cost of a bad reputation or no reputation at all. All right, so now let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes. Now that you kind of have a background of reputation management and what it all means, we're going to talk about just 3 strategies designed to bulletproof your online reputation. And you'll see on the next slide, in terms of how to manage your online reputation, these 3 tips I'm actually taking from my ebook, 15 Ways to Protect Your Online Reputation. And what I did was I compiled really some of the most popular techniques that we use as a business, but more importantly, they're the ones that are proven effective, meaning time and again, based on the current Google algorithm, these are some of the strategies and tips that we use today because they work. Now, keep in mind, Google's always changing. They're making updates, and there's things that may change over time, and that's one of the reasons why it's always important to work with a reputation specialist or an online marketer, because they'll understand those changes and be able to kind of update you on new strategies and techniques. And remember here, the goal is to control your reputation and be proactive, and that's why the ebook really focuses on protecting your online reputation, although you can use it to remediate some negative comments or reviews. But the more proactive you are, the better you're going to be. Because even if I go out there and wave my magic wand and I'm able to remove some negative listings, that doesn't necessarily protect you into the future. You really need to build up a wall, if you will, of digital assets that are going to protect your brand, your business, your personal profile. And that's the difference between reputation marketing versus reputation management. Our firm always likes to take a proactive approach to market you and your brand so that we're not on the retreat and we're not trying to continually remove things that keep popping up. All right, so I do have a URL down there, and McKay and I will show this at the end of the presentation. But if you do want access to that ebook, you're welcome. It's a free download. You just need to go to my website, Upward SEO/free download, and you can get the rest of the tips. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to focus on really 3 of my probably most exciting tips, or certainly the ones that I enjoy working with the most, because they seem to have just an amazing impact in terms of cleaning up online reputation. All right, so 3 great places to start. The first place is with authority websites. And essentially, this is kind of like a shortcut. And what I mean by that is it's kind of like a story my buddy was telling me the other day about judo. He's into judo. He's trying to explain the difference between judo and karate and some of these other martial arts. And essentially, the way he explained it to me is you're using your opponent's momentum and weight against them. And that's why you can take a small person who can basically throw a large person down on the mat, because judo is using someone else's mass to basically defend and then work against themselves. So that's what authority websites do. And I'm going to show you specifically what sites I'm talking about and how you can leverage them. The second is social media. So with social media, there are a lot of popular, strong social media accounts out there, and we can use those to help with reputation and citations. And a lot of people don't know what that means, but it really has to do with business listings online and local search. And again, I'm going to explain that in more detail as we talk about each of these three. All right, so the first one, let's talk about authority websites. And this is really a great place to start any reputation management campaign. And these are just examples, but there are other instances of these which are available. So let's start with Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is a great example. Even if you feel Wikipedia isn't a match for you, what's more important is that you take away kind of the essence of why a site that is Wikipedia or like Wikipedia is so important to rep management. It's an authoritative site. Google shows it in search results all the time. And, you know, it's been designed specifically to provide information and content. And Google loves those sites. So anytime that, even in your niche, if you are, let's say, in the marketing area and you see that the AMA website comes up again and again and again and again, then what you want to do is find out how can you get your business listed on that website. Because, again, Google has already shown it to be important, and they're going to give it a lot of additional weight. The other area is press releases. And I like to use PR Web, but there are a lot of different PR or press release sites out there that you'll find when you submit a release, it actually shows up on page 1. Now, that may be temporary, but again, it's a good way to you know, build up some positive credibility online. Industry-specific websites. So I mentioned ANA when it comes to marketing. You know, there are other associations within specific industries. There are directories, there are chambers of commerce. There are all these different industry-specific sites that are authoritative. And what you need to do is you need to search them out and figure out how you can get your site listed. All right, and then there are more broad or general sites like about.me. And this kind of crosses into social media a little bit, which we'll be talking about. But, you know, anytime that you can find an authoritative site to list your content on, and to do it in a way that is optimized, meaning you're using your brand name either in the URL or in the title or in the link itself, anytime that you can do that, it really helps build those page 1 listings, which will push some of the negative comments down and protect you against negative listings. All right, so let's look at number 2, social media. And again, this is really one of my favorites. And even in the SEO realm where we spend some time, all of our engagements now include social media for a variety of reasons. One is organically, it shows up in search results. If you do a search on your business and your Facebook page isn't coming up, it means you're not doing something correctly, because Facebook is so authoritative that Google will give it preferential treatment when it comes to your brand. So make sure that you are leveraging your social media accounts, and not just Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, SlideShare, Pinterest, Google+, Google Places. These all tend to come up organically just by doing things correctly. You know, and if you kind of do an assessment, you know, see what results are coming up for you on page 1, and make note if any of these are not, because that's what we call the gap, and that's you know, essentially where you can focus your efforts to start to build that wall around your brand or personal name. And what you want to do is you want to maintain these accounts, right? So it's not enough just to kind of throw it out there and see if it sticks. You really need to contribute to them on a regular basis. And you can do that either by integrating it into your workflow. And essentially that means, you know, making sure it is on your blog and web pages and things of that nature. Or if you're kind of responsible for social media, it's baked into your internet browser. And when you're reading an article that you think is interesting, or you're visiting someone else's social media post and it would be valuable to your business, you simply click a button and share it. So you want to either integrate it into your workflow like I talked about, or use tools like Hootsuite that are going to allow you to essentially publish to all of your social media accounts simultaneously. All right? And if you'd like to learn more about those tools, there's a lot of information available online that can get you started. All right, so let's look at just an example of this in motion. So as I mentioned early on, you know, reputation management isn't just about companies, it's also about individuals. And you can see just from the listings that I have, my Facebook profile is there, my Google Plus profile, Crunchbase profile, SlideShare, some of my speaking engagements, my website, my Wikipedia listing. They're all these social media type accounts that are appearing on page 1. So if you don't think, I'm sorry to say it.
I'm noticing too a fantastic turtleneck, I think, in those images down there. Is that accurate down there?
Hey, that turtleneck is long gone. That's all I have to say.
I saw that.
You know what they say? It's like, it's like we tell our kids, right? Once something goes on the web, it's kind of hard to get off,
right.
especially images.
That's
but
right.
yeah, so and speaking to that, here's the strategy also. So if there is something online that is negative, and it is appearing for you on page 1, and at the end I'll give you some tips on what you can do specifically. But one of the best strategies you can deploy is to create all of these digital assets and really work at optimizing them to occupy and fill page 1. Because since we know that 90+% of people never go past page 1, even though that listing may still appear somewhere on the web, the majority of people will never see it. All right. Now, this also works, too, for businesses. So on the next slide, this is just for Upward SEO. You can see that there are Facebook listings and LinkedIn listings and local listings through City Search. And, again, I'm sure if you went out there now, there would be other ones because it's being constantly updated and changing. But I just wanted to reinforce to you why this is such a powerful tip to really bulletproof your reputation, because these are things you control. And that's what's so fantastic about it. It's not an affiliate's listing that's occupying that space, and maybe that someday that affiliate decides to promote somebody else's product, and then basically, you're out of luck. These are things that you can control and you can manage over time to really shape your reputation. All right, and the last one on the next slide there is citations. And if you need more information on this, I put a little footnote down there. There's a great little explanatory site, that's what I was trying to say, called whatarecitations.com. So you can just Google that and read up a little more. But essentially, citations are listings on local search engines. And the reason why local search engines are so important is because something like 63% of all searches now have some type of local intent, meaning that people are looking for businesses, products, services, places to buy things that are local. And as that grows, local search is utilizing a lot of these citations to render results. I mentioned earlier Google Places. Google is using a local directory to generate those results. They're not really scraping the World Wide Web in its entirety because they want to have something that's very specific to you. And on the next slide, you'll see I just kind of put together a slide that shows, kind of an example of what these things are. So, it's Google Places, it's Yahoo and Bing have local directories, it's map software like MapQuest or directories like Best of the Web. And these are really more and more popular for people who are using their mobile phone browsers. And this is a place where a lot of companies fall short. They may be a national company, but just by doing local citations for your corporate headquarters, you will find that many of these start to gravitate towards the top of search results. And again, it's another great way to protect your brand. And local search can be a real affordable way to kind of build up these profiles and protect yourself and your brand. Now, on the next slide, I'm just kind of reiterating here what these citations may look like. And you can see just by this listing, under the primary website, you'll see a listing on Yelp, City Search, Foursquare, a local review engine that we developed. On the right-hand side is a Google Places listing. So again, if your business can benefit from some local traffic, or you're looking to, again, protect your reputation, push down some of those negative listings, citations are a great way to go. All right. So the three things that we kind of talked about we'll reiterate in a moment, but it's really, authoritative websites, social media, and the power of citation. And what I'd like to do is let me just give you two quick case studies to give you an idea of how this works, and then we'll talk about really some common questions that people ask and give you some specific additional strategies in terms of addressing negative reviews. So the first one here is about Dr. David, and I'm going to call him Dr. David to protect his last name. But this is a chiropractor who runs a pretty successful wellness center, and he has physical therapy, massage therapist, acupuncture, and really he always dreamt of creating a wellness center that was not just popular locally, but really that people from all around would come to learn about wellness, learn about alternative therapies, and essentially, be a thought leader in the space. And, like I said, for all intents and purposes, very productive practice. But one day, a guy walked into Dr. David's practice, and it was for physical therapy. And when David kind of explained to him their approach and what would be involved, he became irate. He said, I'm just here because the insurance company sent me here, give me a pill, send me on my way, which obviously he wouldn't do. And this individual, even though it was no fault of Dr. David's, decided to go out and basically create a smear campaign against him. And David was online, he saw some of these comments, and he did what most of us would do, right? He, called friends and family and said, we've got all these bad reviews, can you write me positive reviews? And you know what, for a smaller business, I think that's not necessarily a bad strategy, although I'm not condoning it if it's not a genuine review. But the problem is, even though he was able to generate positive reviews for his business, nobody ever saw them because they were, far past page 1. So Dr. David gave us a call, and where we started was with an initial assessment. And we said, all right, let's take a look on within the first 50 results, so that's the first 5 pages of Google, and let's evaluate at least the first 20 to see if they're positive, negative, or neutral, and then look through the remaining few pages to see if there are any other positive digital assets that we might be able to use to enhance or improve your reputation. And using our proprietary techniques and some of the techniques actually that I've shared with you today, we were able to push those positive listings onto page 1, push the negative listings off page 1, and essentially completely change what people saw when they Googled the Wellness Center or Dr. David or really any of the physicians that work for him. And it had a significant impact on his business. In the 6 months after he made that change, he saw 32% growth in revenue and generated 20% more new clients. So, it's difficult sometimes to kind of evaluate what the impact is, but obviously when that barrier was removed, we saw just how much more favorable the results were for him. All right, now let's go to case study number 2. Case study number 2 was a manufacturer of walk-in tubs. And quite honestly, until we got the call from them, I didn't even know that this existed, but it makes perfect sense. For people who are handicapped or maybe elderly who can't step up into a traditional tub, they create these walk-in tubs. And, in this particular space, it's very competitive. You have people like American Standard doing this, in addition to all of these other, types of companies. And this particular company had a huge ad budget. They were I can't tell you exactly what they were spending, but it was a lot of money, running TV ads, newspaper, full-page magazine, direct response TV, radio, spending a ton of money. And what happened was, since it was such a competitive space, there were a lot of negative comments. Many of them you could tell, or at least we could tell, were not genuine. And it really didn't matter, because when you Googled their name after seeing a commercial or reading something, there were all these negative comments, negative reviews, and it really hurt their business. We followed a very similar process. We went through the initial assessment, identified positive and negatives, sites that were neutral, and where the gaps were. So like we talked about earlier with social media, were there social accounts that they weren't either on or engaging fully in order to protect their reputation. And what we did was we focused predominantly on authoritative sites and social to, create these positive listings, push down the negative listings, and over time, as more and more social media accounts gained strength, it significantly changed their reputation as well. So they saw new customer growth, they saw additional revenue, and again, this is all from taking the time to fully assess where they were and making the appropriate changes to really move their business forward. Okay, so let's just recap real quickly, and then I'm going to go into some specific questions and the answers over the next few minutes, and then we'll have some time, McKay, to answer some questions. All right, so where do we finish? There are a lot of different strategies you can use to get ahead and to win, right? Just like in the photo, everybody's body is different, everybody's training is different, but the goal is still the same. So the best bet you have as an individual or business is to really understand all the tools that are available to you and then determine which ones are the ones you need to apply at different times to really start to optimize this idea of reputation marketing. We talked about authority websites, general sites like Wikipedia or press release sites like PR Web, industry-specific sites that you would be familiar for your particular industry. And again, you can Google all this, so you can go out, if you're a plumber, you can type in plumbing associations or sites that list plumbers and find all of these sites that are going to come up consistently in search engines. The second area is social media. Start by identifying, do you even have all the social media accounts that are relevant to your business? So if you're a restaurant, then Pinterest might be applicable for you, or Instagram. If you are an instructional business, you want to have videos on YouTube. If you are an online-only business, then maybe in LinkedIn you don't necessarily want to focus too much on an individual profile, but maybe you want to start a group and leverage the power of LinkedIn to really show up in search results. So start there, identify what accounts you have, what you don't have, and what you need. And then the last piece, or the last point, is really focused around local optimization using citations and making sure that your business is listed in these really authoritative local sites. And some of those may cross over with social media, like Foursquare, for example. But Foursquare does great organically. So you really want to consider Google Places, Bing and Yahoo local directories, Super Pages, City Search. There are dozens and dozens of these local citations. And again, if you go out to what are citations, you will see all that information. So these are just 3 of my 15 strategies on how to protect your online reputation. Like I said, if you want to get access to that free ebook, just go to upwardseo.com/free download for that information. But I think, the key is to remember that you've got all these different tools, at your fingertips, and it's really just a matter of kind of, looking through and identifying the ones that are right for you. All right? So now what I thought we would do is this is kind of like the lightning round, just to talk about some random things to think about, some FAQs. These are really frequently asked questions that I get, and I just have a few for you today, and then maybe, McKay, we can answer those questions. So the first one is, should I respond, I have a typo in the title there, should I respond to negative reviews? And the answer is absolutely yes, even if they're on Ripoff Report. And in fact, I'm sure on our audience today, we have people who are dialing in because they want to figure out how to get rid of a Ripoff Report listing. And I would say the first place is not to get rid of it at all. It's to actually go in and file a rebuttal. Now, this is free. This is not any of the paid services they have. Personally, I think that's a complete waste of your time because they offer no guarantees. And but what you can do is you can leave a rebuttal. And the reason you want to do that is study after study now, and again, this is becoming more common, is showing that companies who do respond it changes their brand impression because it means that they're engaged, they're willing to be accommodating, and oftentimes, they're doing everything they can to make this customer happy, and people realize that the customer leaving this really nasty review, there's no pleasing him or her. All right, now when you do respond, be apologetic, be polite, be objective, take emotion out of it, and if you do, it will work in your favor. And always do it as soon as possible. As soon as you see it, go out there, look at that feedback, see if there is any merit to it, reach out to that client or customer, try to make things right, do all the right things, but most importantly, respond, okay? All right, the next one is what about fake reviews? Look, fake reviews are going to happen. Almost every company we've worked with, we've looked at reviews that we believe are fake, but the only reason it's an issue is because oftentimes these companies have not made an effort to really get or build up positive reviews. If you have one negative review out of 100, no one's going to care or listen to it. If you have 3 negative reviews out of 4 reviews, you have a problem. So first look at, am I doing something wrong that I need to improve upon? And second, start today. Start going out there, asking your customers for reviews, and really try to solicit that positive feedback so when the negative feedback does happen, it doesn't hurt your business. In the next slide, the question is, where do I start? And I want to reiterate this because it really is the best mindset to have, and that is to go out to page 1 and page 2 of Google, and listing by listing, take a look at it. Don't just assume because the title says something negative that it's harmful. That link may redirect somewhere else, or that link may be an affiliate link to a video that actually talks favorably about your brand. So you really need to do what we call the initial assessment, and do that for page 1 and page 2, and then look on pages 3, 4, and 5 for any additional what I call digital assets. These are PDFs, slides, website pages, videos that may exist, because oftentimes it's easier to get something on page 3, 4, or 5 to page 1 than it is to start from scratch. All right, so again, what are the digital assets that are currently ranking within the first 5 pages, and can you do some things to that to improve their ranking? And then finally, identify the gaps. We talked about it from authoritative sites, social sites, as well as local sites or citations. So what you want to do is go out there and say, okay, I don't have a Facebook page. I need to create one. I don't have a LinkedIn group. I need to create one. I don't have a listing on Twitter. I need to create one. And create an action item and start to build those. And again, there are additional tips in my book, 15 Ways to Protect Your Online Reputation, but you always want to start at the same place, regardless of what tools you use to actually influence those results. All right, so that's I guess, the crux of the presentation today. I know there's some great questions coming in. So again, if you need help with reputation management, that's what I'm here for. And McKay and Log My Calls have been very good to me. So as part of the relationship, I let anyone who are on these webinars to contact me directly. So you're not going to get an administrative assistant or somebody on my staff. If you email me at mfleischner@upwardseo.com, I will personally respond to your email to answer any questions that you have. So McKay, you want to field some questions?
Yeah, let's do it. That was great, Michael. Fantastic stuff. I think we kept up on the slides pretty well too, so I think it made a lot of good sense. So that's what we're going after.
Great.
Okay,
thank
so
you.
Here's some questions. So Roger asks, what about negative videos? So let's say somebody posts on YouTube, this company's garbage, they're a ripoff, whatever. How do you deal with a negative video? Is it the same principle? Produce positive videos? I mean, what's the solution there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and actually, we're working with a client currently to suppress a negative video, and they're a great client, a great company. They've been in business many years, great products. But somebody wasn't happy. They created a negative review, and when you Google their brand name, the negative review comes up. So the strategy there is, first of all, if the video itself is defamatory, you can basically flag it to Google and tell them why it's inappropriate. So there is always a chance that the review will be removed by YouTube, owned by Google. The second thing that you want to do is create your own YouTube video channel and model the same strategy. And there are a lot of companies who are still not producing videos. You can outsource it very inexpensively using a variety of services. But the goal is to create videos to replace it with, because Google is not just going to remove it. Google is going to look to replace that video, meaning you have to have something to put in its place. So my recommendation there is start with your own YouTube channel, produce videos, try to get traffic to those videos and interaction with those videos, and experiment. You may want to title one of your videos with a negative title but a positive description, because maybe that's what Google is looking for. So you definitely need to experiment in that regard. But I think the key takeaway is that first, flag the video. Secondly, make sure that people are saying they don't like it. If they don't, if there is an issue with the video. And then the third strategy is to replace it with your own video, and the only way to do that is to, in fact, create a YouTube channel, produce videos, and get activity around those videos.
That's great. Have a couple people asking questions about PR, like wire services, like PR Newswire, PR Web, or a couple of the ones that jump to my mind. What's the major benefit of that? Is it, like you said, it's the temporary sort of organic search results that maybe show up the day or two after you issue a press release? Is that the predominant benefit you see from those, Michael?
Yeah, well, there are two benefits. The predominant benefit is that if it's an authoritative site, and those are two, right, PR Newswire, PR Web, sometimes those listings will actually show up in the first 10 results and stay there for quite some time. So that's number one. Number two is many of these news sites or press release sites will let you link to an external third-party site. And what I like to do with the press releases is actually link to your social media accounts. And because your release is going to sit on their website, which is authoritative, and point to those social media accounts that are yours, it actually elevates those accounts, meaning helping those rank better on organic search results. And in many ways, it's like you're getting a 2-for-1 deal. And that's why PR can be a really good investment.
That's really interesting. So not necessarily linking back to your website, but actually to your social media profile. That's fascinating. I like that.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind, too, for everybody listening is, Google's only going to give you 1, 2, maybe 3 listings from your website. The other 7 listings on the page need to come from somewhere. So keep that in mind. You don't always want to be pointing links back to your own site, because your site should rank well, for your brand name by itself.
That's great. And then this is a very common question. Looking through all the questions we've received here, trying to crystallize them, several people have asked, how do you get people to leave you good, positive feedback on Yelp and on other sites, on Google and others? How do you actually just prompt people to do that? Is it an incentive thing, or is it just if you're good, the reviews will follow? What's your rule there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll tell you the solution that we've worked out. We actually produce customized review engines for companies to filter reviews. See, because part of the problem is, let's say somebody has a good experience and they're all happy and they walk out the door and say, please leave us a review, and then they get home and they say, you know what, I'm never going back there, or I had a bad experience. And now they know, oh, wow, I can leave a review. I'm going to go out to Google and Google Places and leave a negative review. So most businesses realize that, and that's one of the hesitations they have in soliciting reviews from customers. So what we do is we create custom review sites, and essentially, and look, anybody could replicate this model. We just happen to have a little more experience with it. But essentially what you're doing is you're saying, please leave a review. go to this URL and tell us what you think. And some people will do it for free. Some people will do it for a mug or a T-shirt or a pen. And when they go there, if they leave a negative review, then what we do is we make sure that the business sees that and can respond to it immediately. So the manager gets on the phone and says, I'm sorry I had a bad experience, how can we make it right? But if it's positive, we then capture that information and we redirect that individual to whatever social media accounts we're trying to build. So, in the restaurant example, it would be Yelp or Urban Spoon. In the business example, it might be Google Places. For some, it might be another review site within their niche, like Health Grades, which some of our clients use. So the goal is to first, through behavior, actually see if someone is intending on leaving a positive or negative review, and then directing them to a place where they can leave it. So you really do need that filter, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make.
That's great. And then we've had several people also ask about the benefit of responding to reviews, both positive and negative. I'll let you address that. I had an interesting experience with this recently as a consumer on the consumer side. We were debating on whether to stay at a certain hotel while we were traveling. Mm-hmm. And I think it was TripAdvisor. I can't recall exactly which site. I believe it was TripAdvisor, though. And for this one specific property, regardless of whether the review was positive or negative, there were far more positive than negative reviews, but the general manager had gone in and responded to every single review, positive or negative. Wow. We're talking hundreds of reviews over a 1 or 2 year period. And I was like, you know what, if he's this attentive to his TripAdvisor, he's going to be that attentive to me as a guest. So it helped make my decision. Any additional thoughts you have on just the importance of responding to reviews?
McKay, I think you nailed it. I mean, the reality is that in the past, it was really kind of uncertain in terms of whether or not responding to reviews made sense or if it was valuable. And again, there are more and more studies on this now showing that purchase intent is much higher when reviews are being responded to, because all of us on the phone who are involved in a business, either working for a business or owning a business, know that there's some clients that you can never make happy. And I think most of us really understand and know that intuitively. So as a result, when the business is responsive, and especially when it's public like that, it just kind of reinforces the fact that they're engaged. And like you said, it's impressive when you see that they are really engaged like that, either on social media or review sites.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I agree. Well, good stuff. Michael, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. Everybody, thanks for attending today. I want to, before we conclude, just remind you where this webinar will be housed in terms of the recording itself. Just go to logmycalls.com/webinar. It'll redirect to logmycalls.com/webinar-series, but /webinar will get you there. And then you can see, as soon as we're done with this call, I'll throw the recording up here. So you can see this recording, and then you can see webinars. We actually have another one on damage control for small businesses, and then we also have a successful landing pages webinar next week. And then we're going to take, I think, a week off for the Easter break, which is spring break in a lot of parts of the country for webinars, and then we'll jump back into it in late April. So, Michael, any final thoughts or words before we conclude here?
The only final thought is, get started today. Don't wait until it's too late or someone's posted something negative or nasty about you or your business online. Unfortunately, that's usually when we get the call, but a lot of these things can be avoided and be taken care of, much less expensively with just an ounce of prevention.
Great stuff. Michael, thanks again as always. We appreciate it, sir. It's always fun. And everybody, thank you for attending today. We appreciate it. And watch for an email from us tomorrow morning that will have the recording attached to it. And again, share that on social media and within your organization. So, Michael, thanks. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, McKay. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.